The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Food for the soul. Now, here's your host.
All right, folks, welcome to P.P. Simmons Radio for another installment of Ask Mike Zullo. Mike Zullo, the lead investigator for the Cold Case Posse, Sheriff Arpaio Obama fraud investigation. He answers your questions, and of course, this broadcast is in response to the questions that have been left on our blog spot and our Facebook page and P.P. Simmons YouTube concerning this ongoing criminal investigation, primarily of the long-form birth certificate proffered by the White House, posted on the White House website some time back as the only identifying document of who Barack Obama might be. But as Mike Zullo and the Cold Case Posse have determined, this document, this singular identifying document, the only one ever released by Barack Obama publicly, is a complete fabrication and forgery. It's a fraud. Somebody has committed a felony, somebody's committed a federal crime, and everything seems to point in and around into the White House. Mike Zullo, welcome to P.P. Simmons Radio.
Hey, Carl. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So, in other words, Mike, my introduction there, it is a 100% done deal that what they've offered as the only identifying document, it is a forgery, right? I mean, it's 100%, right?
I am thoroughly convinced it's a 100% forgery, and I think it is probably one of the most complete crime scenes ever left behind. Everything you need as far as evidence is contained within the document.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know that you've just recently released a 207-point affidavit to the Alabama Supreme Court outlining a lot of your evidence, but I also understand that that really is just the tip of the iceberg, and that you have pages more of evidence to prove this criminal case, correct?
Yes, we do. We've done an exhaustive investigation. It's still ongoing, and as fate would have it, every few months something else pops up.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get right down to two or three more questions, very important questions. One of them goes to the issue of the Social Security number. This is a famous issue. Barack Obama apparently is using a Social Security number that should be, by all rights, it appears, registered to a resident of Connecticut or somebody who at least has had a mailing address in Connecticut, etc. There are also allegations that he may have used or have several Social Security numbers attached to his name from records, buying houses, etc. Also understanding that some of these Social Security numbers have connections to other people who are long since dead, which, if that's true, there are other federal crimes involved. And so a lot of people have been leaving questions to you about the Cold Case Posse. Have you looked into the Social Security issue? Is this a part of your case at all? What say you, Mike Zullo?
Well, we are painfully aware of the Social Security issue. It is something that early on in the investigation, even in our press conferences early on, we did not focus on intently. The Social Security issue is going to be a very difficult investigative lead to pursue. It is something that has to go beyond, for our purposes as law enforcement, go way beyond just computer runs of Social Security information that perhaps is cross-linking numbers to addresses or whatnot. You have to go beyond that, and you have to prove that there truly is a connection there. And to do that would be extremely time-consuming at this point and extremely expensive to do. And we are not set up to pursue something to that magnitude right now. Going forward, we may look at that issue, but we felt the best thing for us to do, which was what we were asked to do in the beginning, was to look at the birth certificate document.
Right.
And I think that document, once it is finally adjudicated somewhere, proven to be what it is, I believe that opens up the door than to a lot of these other issues.
Yeah, well, in fact, I was going to use the same illustration. I was going to say, hypothetically, if a court, the Supreme Court of Alabama, for example, they may rule that as a matter of fact, in their understanding, the document is a complete forgery, and therefore he was not eligible to be on the ballot. Or, hypothetically, if there is a congressional investigation that gets opened in this matter of the fraudulent birth certificate, you're saying that once that has been settled, that look, this thing is a fraud, then that opens up the question, number one, who did it? And number two, why would they feel that they needed to create that document for the President of the United States? And so if that happens, then what you're saying is that more than likely, let's say hypothetically it was a congressional investigation, more than likely the whole Social Security issue, the whole identification issue, that cat would be let out of the bag at that time.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. That's exactly what it would be. I mean, you're going to have a body that has the power to force the production of documents.
Right.
And that, to me, and I believe to Sheriff Arpaio, and I know you agree, Congress is the best avenue for that.
Yeah, the very best avenue. I mean, federal courts, grand juries, that would be nice. But what Sheriff Arpaio has said from the beginning, I believe, is that he really, really wants to get a congressional hearing, some type of congressional oversight. After all, that is the constitutional responsibility of Congress.
It is, and it's something we can see right here. Look at the IRS issue. How quick they got a committee together.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really nothing more than just that. Just get a committee together and let's start asking some questions.
Right. Okay. Now let's move along with the questions because that kind of leads to what you just said. But let me ask you this question. I've seen this posted a couple places. Somebody has asked, what if Barack Obama came to Phoenix? In other words, put himself in your jurisdiction, because that's been a question. How come you guys haven't made an arrest? And you've been very intricate and explicit and careful to explain the matters of jurisdiction. But now people are asking, well, what if Barack Obama came to Phoenix and you knew he was in Phoenix? Would you go up to him and arrest the Barack Obama for a fraudulent birth certificate? What's your answer to that?
Absolutely not. Barack Obama, President of the United States, would be free to come and go in Phoenix as he sees fit. We would never take that kind of approach, especially with the sitting President of the United States.
Right.
We don't even have the ability at this point to do something like that, and we wouldn't. It goes back to mischaracterizations of the legal process that people may see on television that becomes a reference point in their minds, and they think that this is the way it works. It doesn't work like that. You are never going to get close enough to the President of the United States to do anything like that. If something like that were to occur, it would be done with paper.
Yeah.
And it would be summonses and whatnot, but you're not going to go over there and put bracelets on him. So that I understand how they can get that perception, but that is never going to happen.
Right. Well, I know that and you know that, but thank you so much for explaining it, because people, I know people are just so frustrated. They see the scandals and even the crimes that surround, or the potential crimes, the alleged crimes, let's go ahead and be legal here, that surround this administration and the White House, and people are just fed up and they want something done. And of course, you and I both know that the wheels of justice turn so slowly, and you just have to be patient and you have to do your due diligence, and you guys have been doing that. I mean, for 15 months you have been patient and you've been grinding along and you've been gathering evidence and continuing with the investigation. And you're right. If Barack Obama comes to Phoenix, there's no way that you or really anybody else is going to walk up and put handcuffs and say you're under arrest for forging your birth certificate document. That's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move along. So here, sometime back, you and I did a radio program wherein you said, look, in the next couple of weeks, you guys are going to see how wrong you have been. And you were talking basically to the Obama bots and all of the naysayers, the people who've been attacking you, saying that, well, you're not doing anything, nothing's happening, this isn't going anywhere, you're not moving along. Well, so what you said several days ago, you said, look, in a couple of weeks, you guys are going to see how wrong young you are. Well, amazingly, and I can't imagine, Mike, that anybody would take you out of context or misquote you, but
Yeah, okay.
but amazingly, now it's all over the internet that Mike Zullo said in 2 weeks a complaint is going to be filed, arrests are going to be made, but you didn't say any of that. So now we're 12 days or so away from the fulfillment of what you said. So first, tell us. We're going to tell the people what that kind of big announcement, we're going to give them a sneak peek as to what that 2-week deal is in a moment. But before we do that, tell the people about what it takes to file a complaint and whether or not that's where you're headed.
Well, first of all, to file a complaint, not only do you have to have a crime as defined by law, which we believe we do, but you also have to have a suspect. And on that, genre of a suspect, you have to have probable cause or beyond to believe that person has committed it. In other words, when that person is sitting down there by a computer, you have to have some kind of information that substantiates that they were there at that time and they created this or they created that. You have to have enough compelling evidence to accuse that person and believe in good faith that they committed this offense. So there's a very high level of evidence that needs to be submitted and presented before you go and file a complaint against anybody on anything. We are never going to file a complaint against anyone. It doesn't even have to be this particular subject. We're never going to file a complaint prematurely. We're never going to wildly accuse somebody of something if we don't have the evidence to put forth. And we are never going to file a complaint under compulsion or threat by anyone. It's just not going to happen. So to answer the question that's out there, is there going to be a complaint filed in 12 days? Let me put it all to rest for you now. The answer is no. We would never do something like that.
Right.
We will file, and excuse me, Sheriff Arpaio, if the time comes to take that action, he will be taking that action when he is good and ready and believes wholeheartedly that we can succeed.
Right. And you never, just to go on record, you nor Sheriff Arpaio have ever said that you were going to file a complaint, or in other words, seek immediate arrest charges on someone. What you have said is that you've conducted a criminal investigation, you have the evidence necessary, and what Sheriff Arpaio has said from the beginning is that what he would really like to see happen is the constitutional process of a congressional hearing, a congressional investigation, and then out of that may come impeachments or charges or whatever. But it's the Congress's constitutional duty to do that. And what you're trying to do is to move all of this towards the constitutional process, correct?
That's exactly what the sheriff said from the very beginning. I mean, if you go back to our 2 press conferences, you never heard the sheriff say, I promise to file a complaint. You never heard the sheriff say, I intend to file charges. You never heard anything like that. I don't know where this has come from, but it's a blatant lie. It's a falsehood. He has always maintained from the beginning, Congress needs to look into this.
Right.
And he understands the way the game is played. And that is the best place to put this, that we have the power to get the things that we can't get to. And that's where he's going. Now, does that mean we're not looking at other avenues? No, it does not mean that. But we are not filing a complaint.
Right.
And we will not file a complaint being threatened or harassed to do so. It's just never going to happen.
Right. Well, I think some of it is just misunderstanding on people's part. Some of it is purposed misinformation. And some of it is, as you just said, kind of a bullying attempt by the Obama bots to get you guys to do something stupid. But you guys are not going to do anything stupid. I mean, you're just not. You're going to follow the legal, constitutional, lawful process, correct?
Correct. And, in investigations unfold, and you know this, you've done them, they unfold slowly. They have their times of adrenaline pumped exhilaration, and then there's just lows where you wonder, my God, what am I doing? And then you get to this place where I've proven one part. I know I can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the document is a forgery.
Right.
Once you get past that, now you have to start to unfold the rest of the puzzle.
Right.
And it takes time. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of resources.
Right. And you guys have, and we can't give the specifics, but you have unfolded some other pieces of the puzzle, and that's what people need to understand, that you guys are continuing to work, you're continuing to investigate, and that's why we're trying to move this to a constitutional process. Now, let's get to the sneak peek of the big announcement, because you said several days back that in a couple of weeks, the naysayers would see how wrong they've been.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.